Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and talking about The Ruins of Gauntlight, which is part 1 of 3 of the Abomination Vaults Adventure Path, published by Paizo for the Pathfinder 2nd Edition role-playing game. This was designed by James Jacobs. And before we get into this, I do want to say I've got a ton of links that at your leisure you can check out in the description down below. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. And if you're in a position to and like to help with the channel, there's a link to my Patreon as well as a link to my Teespring store where you can get some cool Board Game Captain merch, shirts, mugs, etc. Now, I want to start this review by giving a big thank you to Paizo for sending me this copy of The Ruins of Gauntlight to check out and do some content with. Thank you, Paizo. So what is this book? So this, if you've seen, I did a review of one of these Adventure Path books before. Essentially what this is a softcover book that contains a series of multiple game sessions worth of adventure. In this case, roughly, depending on how you split it up, probably about 4 to 8 game sessions worth of adventure, depending on how much time you spend in each game session. This one in particular is, you could have guessed by the title, the fact that it's called The Ruins of Gauntlight and it's part of the Abomination Vaults Adventure Path. It is a giant dungeon crawl. There is a giant dungeon and a big bad in there and lots of monsters, and you're going to go in and solve puzzles and do some role-playing to get past some enemies while you're going to fight it out with other enemies. But the vast majority of this is a dungeon crawl. It's a big, giant subterranean delve, and you know what, if that's what you're looking for in your role-playing game, then this is going to be really cool for that. All right, so now again, this was designed by James Jacobs, though there were quite a few other people that had done work on this, which I'm obviously going to be showing up on the screen here, and I'm going to run you through what's in the book. So the first chapter is the first adventure. It is The Light in the Fog. So The Light in the Fog, you guys are all at the town of Otari, and there's this ancient magical lighthouse that is a little bit of ways away from the town of Otari, that it starts giving off this eerie glow. So this lures you to the location, and the first adventure is basically the ground level ruins of this ancient evil citadel that was run by this necromancer that had been defeated 500 years ago. And, you know, you can go adventuring in these ruins. And then what happens is you discover the entrance to the underground portion, which apparently had been undiscovered since the defeat of the necromancer. So people are unaware, and it's still full of monsters and puzzles and strange things that had not been touched by outsiders. So chapter 2 is the first level underground, chapter 3 is the second level underground, and chapter 4 is the third level underground, basically allowing you to delve up to 3 levels beneath the surface, and the surface level itself is a level of the dungeon. These levels, I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to give away any of what the villains are you're going to face. I don't want to give away what the puzzles are like. But it is a fairly diverse group of challenges. You have lots of monsters to fight, lots of bad guys, and there's a lot of the bad guys, they give some ideas in there about ways to get past them without just fighting them. So with the intelligent villains, sometimes you can talk your way out of situations or talk your way into situations depending on what the circumstances are. So this is a cool set of dungeon delving adventures. In addition, a lot of these will have side quest references. There's a lot of bits where you come across things in the dungeon. It says reference a side quest that you could get from someone in the town of Otari. So it'll be like, you know, you find this person. You're like, hey, they're linked to this thing, you know, this missing person that is in the town of Otari. Not giving anything away, not telling you where to find these. But there are these side quests available. And those are kind of cool. I do like that they thoroughly flesh out the town of Otari, and then there are lots of people there that can give you quests to find or do things while you are in the dungeon as an alternate way to earn reward and possibly even extra experience. And those are really nice. It does help to break up the just constant dungeon delving that this really is, because this is one single gigantic dungeon that this book does not even fully cover. Again, this is just the ground level and the 3 levels underneath it. The next 2 books are more levels as it goes all the way down and connects apparently to the Underdark, according to some of the teaser information in here. So there's a ton of underground dungeon delving that you're going to be able to do, but there is a little bit of adventuring that you will do in the town and above ground as well. So that basically covers what the adventures are like. Again, puzzles, some roleplay opportunities, as well as lots of fighting. There's going to be a lot of dungeon fighting and lots of looting and finding great treasures and stuff. And there's some really cool stuff there. And then when you get past the 4 sections of adventure, the 4 sections of the dungeon delving in here, you get to the next section, which is the Otari Gazetteer, or Gazetteer. I always have trouble saying that word. I think Gazetteer, is that right? Comment down below if I'm saying that right. So you got the Otari Gazetteer, which is this full explanation. It's got a big, nice map of Otari. It's got explanations of all the key businesses as well as the key NPCs at those businesses. I am a particular fan of Rin's Wonders, which has some amazing opportunities to be able to buy some cool magical items, as well as it's a cool place to sell magical items that you have found in your dungeon delving. And that is awesome. There's some great NPCs here. I like quite a few of them. I'm also a big fan of, they have this, in Otari, they have this gigantic library that also doubles as the town's temple, because inside of the library, there are shrines to like half a dozen different gods, and then all of the librarians are also clerics. So it's this weird kind of double duty situation, but it's really kind of neat. I like it a lot. The NPCs and the locations in here are great. They're very well fleshed out. It's a wonderful location. And if you're not familiar with Otari, Otari is a town that is on the same island as Absalom. It is a smaller community, whereas Absalom is the big city. This is a smaller town, a little bit off the beaten track. And it was one that was also used as the main location for the single adventure in the Pathfinder starter box. So this is kind of cool as a continuation of that. If you played the adventure in the Pathfinder starter box and then wanted to continue on, and you want to keep using those same characters and move on to the full rules, this is a great way to do that because you're already in the right town. This makes this a really cool product to get as your next product after getting the Pathfinder beginner box, and maybe then after getting the full Pathfinder rules. Picking this one up as like your third product might be a really good option, because it fully helps you understand how to run an adventure right out of the location your characters are already in. So the next section is the Adventure Toolbox. Now, the Adventure Toolbox is really great. It gives you a lot of background information about the location, about the timeline of events that leads up to the current events going on in the Abomination Vaults. It tells you about when they got built. It's got a big timeline when they got built, when the evil necromancer was defeated, when the town of Otari was founded, all of that. So you have a full breakdown, very useful. Once you get past all of the background information on the region, you have some amazing artifacts, which include the Gauntlight Tower, the lighthouse itself, as one of the artifacts. Of course, not an artifact you can carry around with you, mind you, but it is a powerful magical artifact. And then they have a ton of other new artifacts that are very interesting and very cool, that are ones you can find in here that, of course, are not described in the main Pathfinder book. These are specific magical artifacts to this adventure path, and some of them are really cool. I am a particular fan of the Lantern of Empty Light, especially when fighting against undead. This is an amazing tool, really cool magical item. Then we've got some new rituals and spells here. The main one is Awaken Portal, because there is a system of no longer active portals throughout the dungeon, and if you're able to Awaken Portal, which is a ritual you can do on either end of them, you can start using the old portal system that the necromancer had made. I'm not giving too much away from the adventure here, but that is why this is in here in the back. You go on, there's a new archetype. The new archetype is a ghost hunter. Do you want to be a fantasy kind of ghostbuster? Well, here you go. They've got it. It starts with a level 2 feat that is Ghost Hunter Dedication, and then we've got a bunch of other feats that you can use once you have taken the dedication to be a Ghost Hunter. Then we get into new monsters. So first we have a Corpse Light, which is an interesting new monster that is like an undead Will-o'-the-Wisp. We have some other alternate forms of Will-o'-the-Wisp. We have some new versions of lots of different monsters. I don't want to give away too many of the higher level monsters you're going to face in here, but there's new types of aberrations. There's new types of humanoids, new versions of different kinds of monsters you may be familiar with from the Bestiary or Bestiary 2 for Pathfinder. So that is really cool, very important. And then we've got some of the major NPCs that you will run into in this adventure. So, okay, so what are you going to need to run this? So to fully run this properly with all of the monsters that are in here, you're going to need the Bestiary and Bestiary 2 because there are tons of monsters in here that are in both the first and second Bestiary. So you will need those to run this properly. You're also, of course, going to need the regular Pathfinder rulebook, and then, of course, this book as well. This book contains all the monsters that are not in the Bestiary and Bestiary 2. It also contains all of the new items that are not in the main book. So that's it. That's what you will need to run this. I did want to throw out, though, that it is actually something I did notice is there's quite a few monsters in here that are from the Pathfinder Bestiary 2. So if you don't have that, it may be a bit of an issue. On the other hand, as a replacement to that, if you don't have the Bestiary 2, instead you could pick up the cards, the Bestiary Battle Cards box and the Bestiary Battle Cards box 2 as a alternate to getting those. Those boxes have all the stats you need for running the monsters from the Bestiary and Bestiary 2, but do not have the fluff. They do not have the storyline of those monsters. So if you don't, that is just a alternate. If you don't think you need the storyline stuff, if you think there's enough of the storyline stuff in here, you might be able to run these monsters just off the cards. But I think if between the cards and the books, if I was to recommend one, I would recommend the books because you get the storyline and the background information on the monsters in the books, which you do not get from the cards. Okay, so this is the start to a giant dungeon crawl. That's going to last you 3 books. Each book, if they're as big as this one, will have like 4 full adventures worth of material. So depending on how long you run your games for, this could be 4 to 8 game sessions of play with this one book, and then there's 2 more books in the series. So this is not going to bring you all the way to level 20, but it will make you a fairly high level. Each one of these adventures should make you level up. So by the time you are done with the first book, your characters are going to be level 5. Big reasons why you would want to play this with your gaming group. Reason number 1, your gaming group is very into doing dungeon crawls. They very much just want to optimize the fighting and negotiating capabilities of their characters to get them in and out of encounters. And they really love looting for treasure like Indiana Jones and searching through dungeons and fighting monsters. If your players are very much into that sort of game, this is going to be a great one to run. Reason number 2, if you already ran the introductory Dungeon Delve story from the Pathfinder beginner box, this is a great way to continue off from that because it's in the same town. And again, if they really liked that Dungeon Delve, which was in there, this is an even bigger Dungeon Delve that can immediately follow the beginner box. So these are good reasons to want to play this. Now, if your group is much more into playing like mysteries and actual doing role playing and a lot more character interaction and going around to multiple locations, then this would not be the sort of adventure path you should run for your group. So very important thing is to talk with your group and figure out what kind of adventure path are you guys looking to run, because this will very much cater to certain groups, and then there's certain others that may not be as keen on it because of how it's all in one place and really all about one specific type of play, which of course is dungeon delving. All right. The book retails for $24.99, which is not bad. It is soft cover, obviously. It is full color printing, which is very pretty. So obviously they don't do the smaller books like this in the hardcover production like they do the bigger books. So, I mean, it's pretty good for a soft cover production, but you do have to take into account the fact that it is a soft cover production. It will not be as super durable as the hardcover Pathfinder books that come out, but still for soft cover production, glossy pages, full color printing, it does look pretty nice. I do quite like it. Overall, I'm going to give the Ruins of Gauntlight 7.5 stars out of 10. I think it's a very interesting and cool dungeon crawl, and if that's what your role-playing group is looking for, that is going to be a really cool adventure path to run for them. And then because it doesn't bring them all the way to level 20, you can then even continue on and figure out, once you're through the 3 books, though I haven't read what the other 2 are, so I don't know what the end is, you'll probably be able to figure out some other more high-level adventures for them to go on once they have totally cleared out the Abomination Vaults. So there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns on this adventure path, the Ruins of Gauntlight from the Abomination Vaults adventure path, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review of a role-playing game product and you'd like to see me do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.